Hello and welcome to Stampscapes Friday Night Live. We have this piece of background paper by Deanna Tubb-Sedillo, 8 inches by 5 inches. It's a test piece that's not in her lineup of background papers for sale, but just one that she kind of sent to me that she had completed. I'm not sure of the technique on this one, but it looks really cool and it's really colorful. When I get her papers, I tend to not want to cover it up too much, that they're kind of designed for, they're designed to be stamped on, but I really like kind of emphasizing them by doubling them up in these reflection cards I find. Okay, so my scenario for this one is I haven't done a cave type of setting in a while, and I thought I would pair that type of idea with her background paper. Okay, so I'm going to stamp out kind of a perimeter up here, and this is going to be kind of representative of a cave in here, like a flooded cave, where there's been a lot of moisture buildup and things like that. So there's this reflective quality in here, and I thought that would look pretty interesting. So let's get to that. Okay, now see, there's all these types of colors in here. Hello, Froggy Fresh, good to see ya. We have the gradient. I don't know what AB stands for, but it's this crushed glass, and it has this I don't know. It's not holographic, but it's kind of like iridescent or something like that. These colors on there. And I thought these colors right here would pair well with this background paper color scheme really nicely. So I'm always looking for extra excuses to add in three-dimensional types of elements in my scenes. And I've done this before, but these little rock things might go onto some of the perimeter rock structures that we put around on this background paper, but also I'll have them down here in the water, so that might be kind of interesting. Hello, Candy. Yeah. So what have you been working on, Froggy Fresh? Any more train types of things or anything like that? I just, didn't you have some kind of issue coming up with one of your pets? There, a dog or something? Hope all's well. If that was the case, I'm trying to remember what I saw there the other day, or might have been this week. I lose track of time here. Okay, so this type of paper is a little bit different because I take it it's an inkjet printing on Deanna's home printer. It is on I believe, a matte cardstock. So let's see what's going to work really well on here. I would imagine like a VersaFine Clair would be fantastic on this. I'm just going to use my hybrid black here. And I'm going to try to mix this up a little bit. We have a lot of real estate here on practically a half-page piece of paper, so I'm going to add in some different textures here, just because there is a decent amount. I usually do it in one. Like, I'll do this, and I'll just put this around the whole thing like that. But I thought I'd kind of mix it up just, for a little bit of variation to make it look like, I don't know, like different, I don't know, whatever, textural schemes here, I don't know, to represent different geological factors. That's one of those things, once you get into that organizational type of thing, that's like a whole big project into itself. My wife did that years ago. She had I think a booklet or something like that. This is pre kind of smartphone apps and things like that. So she had like a physical book of all of her stamp designs, so that when she would go to like a convention, she wouldn't double up on anything on accident. And then I don't know, there were different types of digital types of organi- organizational apps in the past, and some of them kind of, I don't know, they were here and gone. They didn't keep those updated, so um, she'd be entering in like tons of information on those. Yeah, I don't apps, I guess, and I don't know. I remember it taking like a huge amount of time uh, getting put, you know. But yeah, that was like an ongoing thing. I think it was stamps and accessories too. So yeah. So when you say that, all that comes to mind. I remember her doing that. Oh, I don't know. It's like, how many years ago was that? That was quite a few years ago. It's probably 18 years ago. But I seem to recall the process taking like I don't know, like 2 years. It seemed like that. I don't know if it took that long. And that was back in the days of just like stamps and, you know, a few accessories that weren't like dies and all that, you know, type of thing. All right. Adding this around here, then I'm going to add in some other forms around that. Maybe it'll look like kind of more of a dimensional type of um, build here, as opposed to kind of everything being at the same kind of at the same distance, which is usually my kind of cave openings, you know, scenario. Okay, so that was the tall rock, which I've used a few times recently. Let's see. We'll go tall rock a little bit right there. This is the ledge right here. And the impressions, I don't know, they seem to be applying onto this just without any kind of problem at all. Which is always a good thing. I always want to have like easy impressions. Now I'm going to be stamping on the silver cardstock here, which is, you know, um, if you're working with stays on ink, with a lot of types of designs, it's no problem. But if it starts to get really kind of silhouette-y, bold types of shapes and things like that, less than ideal, but needed for that type of surface. I found stamps and dies that I didn't know I had. Yeah, yeah. That's one thing about kind of organization, huh? You really find out some things that you didn't know you had. I was going through some things recently, just trying to kind of streamline things and get things organized. And yeah, I was coming across some things that I just that I seem to recall, but I don't know. Sometimes it's like sometimes you don't even remember getting these things. But I guess it's good, you know. But on the other hand, it's like, yeah, especially if you can use them. But yeah, it's always kind of interesting. Okay, let's do this right here. I was gonna do like so much kind of masking off in here, but I don't know. It's looking pretty interesting. This almost looks like a little waterfall right here. It's not gonna look like that when I'm done here, but I don't know. Any guess? You guys have any guess as to what she did in here in the background? Is that those oxides or something like that? It kind of reminds me of it. I don't think it's alcohol ink. It is it oxides and pastels or something? I have like zero idea. It kind of reminds me of some of those water um, soluble types of things that I seem to recall in some of those oxide creations that I've seen in the past, but I have no idea. You forget something's given to you. Oh, right, right. Hello, Sheila. How are you? So Sheila, this is one of Deanna's background papers. One of the things I don't know if you heard me, if you were on here yet, but I was wondering what she did this in. I didn't really ask her, but I was trying to figure that out. But I thought it looked like I don't know, it could. I guess it could be watercolors in the background. You know, one of those types of techniques where you lay down a lot of water on the paper and then you go into it with the colors or something like that, and they kind of spread out like that or something. All right, those are the tall rock formations. Then I'll close it off on the top like this. Let's do. I'm trying to find a good angle for that. This is kind of like it's like another version of those cloud portal types of scenarios that I was showing. I don't know. At this point in time, it's been like 3 weeks ago or something like that. Just kind of how to utilize your clouds by changing the angles, overlapping. And that's with something that's really, really like a soft form. But this is just showing you that you can do it with like really, forms that are supposed to be, represent like really, really hard forms too, like rocks. You just kind of overlap things, change the angles because it's all just texture, that can blend in with one another. Now, at a certain point, there's a certain there's wide tolerances here. You can overlap, an inch, quarter inch, eighth of an inch, or something like that. You probably don't want to overlap like 50% of the, like something like this. I probably don't want to go in here like that, I mean, you could, but you'll start doubling up on like things like these dark areas and textures, okay? So you just gotta have to kind of go in there and give it a try, do a little test printing or something like that and see how it looks to you. All right, see this right here? It's supposed to be a cave, and then I'll close it off right there. Okay. I'm going to shade this and everything like that, but I'm looking at it right now. I'm thinking, I don't know. It looks okay. Just even if you just stamp it out like this and just leave it as is, it almost looks like that lighting from the outside is reflecting off of the rocks, huh? Maybe I'll just shade it a little bit, maybe. All right, there you go, like that. So it's kind of like I don't know, like a beach cave or something like that. I'm thinking if it was like a little, thing like that. But look at that right there. Isn't that pretty fun like that? You can almost see like I can use like the seaside cove out here and create like a horizon line right there, and this would make it would become like a beach cave or something of that sort. I think I'll just kind of leave it though, just to retain as much of this coloring in here as possible, because if I put this ocean up here and colored it in, then we'd lose some of this down here as well. This reflected portion of it like that. But isn't that really fun like that? Yeah. Okay, so we'll do some extra impressions. Should I do that right now? Let's just do the impressions right now, and I'll get like a lot of that out of the way. Okay, so I'm switching up from the hybrid black ink right here. Again, like I think like a VersaFine clear would be fantastic up here. Oxides, okay, or the watercolors. Yeah. Yeah, I'm kind of wondering what those really super bright tones are. I'm not sure how close they are or representative of the colors that she used on here because again, this is like a she probably scanned and then printed. I'd imagine, I don't know, looking at it though, it seems pretty bright. Okay, so we're switching up to the stays on ink for this portion down here. And let's see. Now, one of the things I thought about doing was adding in a little bit of white pigment ink down here and then stamping over the top of it with the rocks so that it's not just these rocks that I add in here just aren't completely see-through. But I don't think I want to do that. I'm just going to keep this really, whatever, basic and simple just by stamping out the rocks in here. So again, any area in here that isn't black is going to, it's going to be completely see-through. So, okay, now here's little types of things that I'm thinking about here. So this rock right here was this one. I could go right there and mirror. I don't want to mirror it, but I think I'm going to put this one over here so that it's just not, kind of stacked right here in terms of that texture. So I'm going to put this right down here like this, and this will be like a foreground rock texture. Okay, now I've adhered this piece of silver cardstock in here, just, to make this easier to work with. It's easier to work. It's easy to work separately, but I'm talking about kind of like showing you guys what this is going to look like eventually. So it's easier for me to just plop this one down here like that, rather than having these two separate floppy pieces, and I have to keep kind of putting it together like that. Okay, let's go like this. Okay, stamping on mirrored cardstock. Just as you set that down, just it's not so much of a big issue with these big designs like this, but smaller designs that are just like in your hand, it's easy to kind of stamp it out, and kind of as you start pressing down on it a little bit, it's easier to skew it a little bit because it's the ink is just this watery, slick type of lubricant that's easy to move around because it's just not absorbing into the surface at all. So if you haven't done this before, I'd really recommend trying it, but do a few test prints on a piece of scrap, just designate a piece of scrap and do some test prints. Like when I'm using this, I'm a lot more definitive when I'm dropping it down. That's where it's going to go, because it's easy for me to kind of start going down. It's like, oh, or once I feel that kind of making contact and it's real slippery, it's easy to kind of move it around. So I'm a little bit more definitive when I get within that area, and then I stamp it. And you don't want to stamp like really with a huge amount of pressure if it's like some little design like this, These larger ones are easy to work with though, because I don't know, there's a lot of surface area or something, maybe. But it gives you, pretty good impressions like that. The more silhouette-y ones where there's a lot of like solid areas, I guess. This one's like mixed up, with a lot of textural and fine point things like that. I don't know, it distributes the pressure or ink or something like that on the surface. On this metallic cardstock, so it's real easy to kind of handle. All right, so that's like a foreground type of thing like that, and then I'll add in some additional forms right in here to kind of flank this area in here. I guess I don't want to do too much though, because I really like that look in there. But see, these things right here, I always mention this in these reflection cards, but see this shard here where this is not reflecting, if we wanted that area to be obscured, this area would have to kind of flare out like that. We'd have to be using I don't know, what is that, what's that shape? I forgot what it's called. But so I want to fill this area in a little bit, so an image coming across like here and here would be beneficial, just to break up this line right here. Okay. If it's other types of scenarios, I put like dark pine trees right here on the corner, like in the foreground area, and that pretty much takes care of that. But I just want to break it up a little bit. All right, so for rocks in the water, for my reflection cards, I like using these ones off of this desert series here. Like this. I mean, you can stamp like individual rocks down here too. Hello, Bonnie. Hello, Linda. Yeah, Froggy, I haven't seen too many like the train things. Are you are you done working on your set, at this point in time, or for now maybe? Okay, let's see. Let me get my bearings here. Let me see. Okay, so if this goes right here, I need to see what I'm covering up, what reflection I'm covering up down there. Okay, see that right there? I just touched down. Decent pressure, not too much pressure though, okay? It's not about like pressure on here that's going to transfer that ink, okay? But you need a decent amount, but not overly. And then you just kind of hold a little bit longer to get that ink to kind of start setting up and transferring. I don't have that down like to a science or anything like that. Sometimes it's I stamp and press, and then it's I lift, and it's not as dark as I thought it would be. Now I just re-inked my pad right now too, so I think that's kind of helping. Let's see here. Let's go with that same one. I have a smaller one of these, and I'm just kind of wondering if I wanted to use that one in here to create like a little bit of extra depth, but I think I want to go with something a little bit larger again. I'll just use kind of a small portion of it like this and over on this side right above this rock. Okay, so let's see. Okay, I think that's like 20 seconds or so. And then I'll kind of relieve some pressure and just, maybe allowing that ink to transfer or something like that. And then I'll just lift slowly. Sometimes when I'm like lifting it off, it's like the stays on ink has dried on there, so it's like peeling it off, this dry media that's like adhered to the background. And sometimes when it does that, it's like I think a lot of the ink comes off on the stamp as opposed to having been transferred to the surface. It's still on the stamp because it's adhered to it. I don't know, what seems to help, I don't do it all the time, is re-inking my pad before I do this. Okay, let's go with another right in. Do I put it right in there? Here, let me see. Let's go about right there. Or do I put it over here? I think it looks pretty decent in both areas. I don't want it in both areas, but let's put it like right around here. Just so it's not just this totally perimeter flanked scenario, because we have that up in the top portion too. I don't want to just do that again right in here. I want to kind of mix it up a little bit. I think that's what my eye is telling me. Okay, a little bit of a smaller one. I was really careful about not. Sometimes I set it down like doing too careful of a placement and it's like touches down in a little area. I don't know, does that happen to you guys too? It's like you want to kind of like get it in a certain area and it's like, ah, I touched it, you know? So it's like, okay, I got to, just do it there. Or sometimes it like touches down and I kind of move it and then it's like you get a little bit of that double impression, you know? All right. Pressure, depressurize, but holding here steady. And, oh, good. Now, see, I don't know why. Like, I got a really solid impression area like that, but sometimes when I stamp out the, like the silhouette types of figures or something like that, and it's got that solid, it leaves this big kind of area in the middle where it didn't stamp out, for some reason. I don't know, maybe it's the distribution again of, a lot of different air. I don't know why that would change the impression area of one area, but I don't know. That seems to be the case a lot of times. All right, so that is the cave looking, or the reflection area type of scenario like that. Okay, I lied. Let me go with one more here. I don't know what I'm doing until I see it. See right here. I don't know. There's like these 4 area things down here, and they say that like in compositions a lot of times the groupings of like odd groupings are kind of more graceful. I don't know, whatever, graceful in terms of like to your eye in terms of composition, odd numbers. Okay, so what I'm looking at right here is see this transition right here. I don't really like that right down here too much, so I'm going to stamp something right over right here. Let's just use a little bit of these rocks right here, like that, like about half maybe. Okay. About like so. Lights and wiring. Oh. That sounds like to me, when I hear about like things like lighting, I don't know about the mechanics of it or anything like that, but in terms of the kind of those little details and aesthetics, that lighting sounds like, it sounds like fun to me, about where to place the lighting and everything like that. Okay, let's take a look and see. Yeah, that lower portion looks pretty fun to me. Let's anchor down and kind of unify these just a touch. It looks pretty good just as is to me. Small stamp like this, really easy to stamp and skew. Sounds like a really bad name of a stamp store, Stamp and Skew. It's like these little convenience stores like in the 70s, maybe 80s too. Stop and Go. Stamp and Skew. Okay. Going like that. And the kind of the far side of the I don't know what this is. Is it a like a pond, like a cave pond? I don't know. Do you call it a pond? we'll put some of this right like that. So see this right here? I'm kind of carrying that out a little bit from these rock groupings like that. And it just kind of anchors them in there a little bit more. You see me use this stamp all the time. So it's going for the full impression, the first couple impressions, but then you utilize the drier version of it to kind of carry it out from your objects, and you'll get a varied value of that same texture. Okay, so it looks like that. All right, let's take a look here like this. Okay, so it anchors them down a little bit more, and there's a little bit of a kind of a surface reflection up here of these rocks against the reflected objects up top like that. All right. Let's bring in some additional depth to our objects. What I like to do is far end objects, I like to kind of tone them in a little bit and darken them, transition them from light to dark at the base. And I think that transition looks really good. Although in this one, having it completely mirrored like that looks pretty cool too. I don't know. I'll just add a little bit in there at a time, and then we'll just see what it looks like. Sorting my stamps. Yeah. Froggy's doing the Froggy, is that the first time that you've kind of done this degree of organizing? It probably has, right? From the sounds of it. Okay, so we're gonna do black colored pencil, by the way. We're gonna darken in the perimeter kind of a little bit, and then I'll kind of refine things. I'm kind of working the shadows a little bit too, but we'll go largely darker and then lighter like that. And then I'll just go in here and kind of model some of the forms within these rocks a little bit more. But I'll just put down kind of a 15% gray around on the perimeter of this. You can leave some of these little forms in here a little bit lighter. Like, see this right here? There's a little bit of lightness on this rock. And then there's darkness right here. That's right, that's drawn into the designs themselves. Like this. There's kind of this thing that goes on. It goes shaded, light, shaded, where it's defining the light, and then it goes light, dark, light, dark, light, like that. So I'm kind of following that patterning a little bit, but I mean, you don't have to do it like on everything. You can leave some areas illuminated or whatever, or you can darken in areas that were light too. Just so long as it's a little bit of variation up here, I think it looks really good. Rather than just toning in the whole thing, I'm saying. Okay. You can even do it where these little, I don't know, what do you call it, faceted little areas. You could even do it where it's like this is dark, but then this one is light, and this one's dark, You see that thing out in nature too. That type of interesting patterning. All right, let's see, let's go around like that. You can see the sides like more toned in. It's darker over here too because it's violet, and the lighter tones are over here on her paper. But let's add in that additional shading over here too. So someone was, I was emailing someone that had placed an order for some sets this week, and yeah, I just dropped her a note, just say thanks, and stamps are on the way, type of thing. But she said, I'm glad that to see that you've kind of retained your enthusiasm over all these years. And I was saying, yeah, for me, it's almost like more exciting now than it's always been really fun, but it's like really exciting working with all this new media. So Froggy Fresh, kind of organizing her things like that. One of the things that got me experimenting a lot more was I organized my papers. My papers were all just kind of piled up. I had whatever types, colored papers. Um, I don't know, not a huge amount, but different pattern papers. But then I had all my metallics, the mirrored style. I didn't have too many mirrored ones, but a lot of the iridescent papers. So I organized those. So I have like four categories of paper now, but one of them's metallics. And it was fun to kind of see what I had in those metallic papers. But seeing that I had so many of them got me to, getting around to using them because I had so many. It was like the only thing that they were kind of serving a purpose for was kind of, well, I would do two things. Sometimes I would matte, my cards with a piece of iridescent colored paper, metallic, like shimmery paper or something like that. But otherwise, it was just like, their main purpose was like for admiration. I just love those kind of those shimmery surfaces. But I thought I better start using them. And it's just like seeing what you have. And if you have like a lot of it, which was the case. I didn't buy those papers by the ream or anything like that, but they were, they're typically sold in like packs of like, I don't know, maybe 20, 25, full size sheets too. So it's like, I got to use those. And that's when I started dipping in. It's like, okay, what's going to work on these? And it's like I remembered like the brilliance inks and kind of what their purpose was for. So, and that opened up a whole big can of worms in terms of media surface combinations. I guess this one would kind of, so when it comes to like papers like this with the Deanna's papers, it's like kind of doing a lot of this kind of experimentation over the last couple years. I don't know, maybe it's been 3 years at this point in time. I don't know. Whenever I started doing all those metallics, but what's exciting about it is I never know what I'm going to get or what, like a paper like this, I have no idea what I'm going to do with it. But I kind of want to emphasize it and maximize it and kind of work around the types of things that Deanna already kind of has established in here. So, I don't know, come up with different ideas than I normally wouldn't have, I probably wouldn't have thought to do. But just because I'm trying to maximize something or emphasize something that already exists on these pieces rather, starting off like a white piece of paper where the possibilities are kind of endless. So I don't know, it gets me to think about things a little bit differently on this. But I do find myself doing kind of a lot of reflection cards with their pieces because I really like what's going on in there. And I could fill it up, things like that, and just use that background kind of peekaboo kind of, usages of that background textures and colors and everything like that. But I don't know. I feel like mirroring it down there, it kind of, I don't know. I don't I don't lose, there's more of it being shown after, all these impressions on here than than there would have been had I just been working on that. That looks pretty cool too, though, doesn't it? Just as is. These cave things like that. All right, so that is that. Let's model them. Okay, now here's the thing. See this right here? I always mention this in these reflection cards. You go like this, and you get more light reflecting back up in here now. So some of my darker areas in contrast in here aren't as it's not as contrasted anymore, because you get light coming from here and light bouncing in from the surface like this. So let's go in and kind of darken up some of those little areas that I want to be fairly dark in here a little bit more. We'll define them a little bit more. Putting everything in binders. Okay, got it. Have you ever put tree roots coming through the root? I don't remember if I have, but I know some people have, though. They've used like a lot of times what they do is they take a tree and they just throw it upside down and stamp it down there, and where you have it coming down here. I want to say, I don't know. Linda, have you done that? I don't know. I know people have done it. I can't remember if I've done it though before. Or there's the stamp called Crooked Limb, and you can stamp it in any which direction. But I think I've seen that one. I don't know. For some reason, that one stands out to me as being potentially used in a cave scenario. Yeah, but that overhanging kind of root structure is a really great idea. What's really great about that, just in terms of it's the concept of it too, but having kind of these forms kind of hanging in here, it kind of breaks up just the hard edge types of textural forms in here, the geometry in here. You have these little bit more dangly kind of forms, for like a shape contrast. Okay, so just in here, I'm not going and just like toning in everything. I'm kind of, like at the base of this, I'll just add a little bit more tone like that. If things start getting like really kind of super soft looking too, I don't think it is, but you can go in and glaze like some other colors into these forms down here, like right down in here, this greenish tone. If you wanted to use like a light blue or something like that in there, that would look good. So we can bump up, if we wanted to, the layering and intensity down here. Just if you want it to look a little bit different from the background, you can do something like that. Or you can go in here with your colored pencils and the forms in here, like see this violet tone in here. You just go with it, and like with a colored pencil right here, instead of just using only black, you can get like some of these darker areas in here with a color out of that color scheme. Yeah, which is probably a good idea to do. I don't know if you need to. I think it was looking okay as is, but just a little bit of that. You don't have to go on like that, in here, but you can add in a little bit more of that hue, so you can go sometimes like brighter in the shadows like this with a darker, brighter version of that color scheme in there. So let's do that right here a little bit. We'll use a little bit of this ultramarine. All right, something like that. There. Let's take a look here. Like so. I need like a little explorer or something right there. I might add in, like some little figure in there. After all, it's supposed to be kind of like otherworldly. When I was thinking about, I was thinking it doesn't have to be like Earth, but I don't know, like a little figure right here or something like that. You can even put like a word stamp up here. I don't think I'm going to, but yeah, I'm just saying you could. All right. Okay, let's see. I think that looks okay up there. Um, let's put a little. I haven't used these in a long time. This gradient glass shards. Now, sometimes people ask me when I'm working with these glass shards, "Hey, isn't that like sharp?" These are all like I don't. They're not. They're not like picking up like a broken glass ball or something like that. I mean, you can put your finger in here, like that. It's not going to cut you or anything like that. They're I don't know if they're tumbled. They're probably tumbled maybe a little bit after. Or it's just not the type of glass that's going to be, kind of any type of problem um, by touching them. But there are like various shapes of them, okay? Some of them are a little bit more dimensional and high, and some of them are like little flat little shards, so it's like they're not like symmetrical like whatsoever, like glitter might be or something like that. Um, so you gotta get, I don't know, you gotta kind of pick and choose. If you're gonna be using it like me, using it probably they're probably using this type of thing for like resin pours or something like that, where you just drop it into some kind of scenario. But I'm using it kind of in little specific ways. Okay, no, I'm going to put some of it like down here in the water, like where it's real sparkly. It could go up here too, like on some of these rocks or something like that. It might be kind of interesting. But it makes it where now this is like a card that you'd mail and it's completely flat. So if you're mailing it, with these shards sticking up here, you don't want this like pressing into here, especially if it goes through an auto sorter like at the mail service, it goes through like that. So what you do, I mean, it still might go through the auto sorter, but if you're going to mail this to someone, I would just throw a piece of like cardstock in here, fold it over like that, so if it does kind of end up pressing up into this area, it's not going to be by very much. Or you can put, I don't know, like a piece of like little foam in here or something of that sort. You got this papers in a cedar chest, huh? That's cool. Handmade florals. That sounds like a great idea, Froggy Fresh. Um, Having those three-dimensional objects in scenes, that's like, working with this one. I haven't really experimented too much with like real super dimensional types of things, but I love adding in the like little dried flowers and things like that into the scenes, different scenarios. All right, so I haven't done this for a while. I'm just going to put a few drops of this glue in here. And one of the things I um, started doing a little bit more, because this is going to dry transparent anyways. I wasn't using enough glue at first when I started playing around with this type of idea. Um, and I think some of my like shards or something like that, it when it dried, it kind of flaked off too easily. So I put a pretty decent little dollop of it down there, especially like for the size of these right here. Um, all right, let's see. This is just a jewel picker right here. I'm going to try to stay away from some of the more like super dimensional ones. But you have to kind of figure out, like this one has like a, this one's pretty big right here. Okay, that worked right there. It didn't have enough glue there or something like that for that one. All right. Not that any part of these videos are like super dynamic viewing subjects right here, but kind of bear with me, as I add down these like tiny little things, onto a drop of glue right here. And some of these little shards, I think, are a little bit, they're like bowed or something like that. Okay, I think I got a bunch of glue on this or something like that. It's not sticking anymore. Let me try to wipe it off here a little bit. Oh, there's a bunch of glue on here. Okay, let me see if that's working. Yeah, I think they're pressing down into my foam. There we go. Okay, that one's curled right there. I was trying to adhere it, but it's like bowed like that. So find your nice flat pieces. My craft glue's dried already. I think I did a scene called yeah, like Cave of Gems or something like that before, doing this type of scenario. I think I put stuff like on the cave walls or something like that too, on the upper section. So some of these are pretty cool. I'm just looking at it. I haven't worked with this in a long time, but some of these are like, it's like a like mother of pearl or something like that. But some of these are just like this aquamarine color that I like a lot. I probably space things out too evenly down here. I need to do it a little bit more like clusters, of a couple rocks. I put that one little dot real close to that one there. Okay, let me take a look here and let's see what this is looking like. All right, see these little things like down here? It's like kind of a little subtle. I'm kind of putting it amongst the tiny rocks clustering too, so it's not like this little things just sticking out amongst a bunch of textures, but it's the, see these right here. So when you go like that, it's kind of a little bit reflective. So this area down here looks a little bit more, I don't know, kind of dimensional. I'll put a few more like right around in here. And you can put stuff like embedded in like these foreground rocks too. I think that would be kind of interesting to have that kind of glistening like that too. I'm not gonna take the time to do it in this like live stream, but you can take some like smaller pieces in here maybe and throw it like around in here to kind of give it a little bit more of a whatever perspective type of take within like even these little forms right here. There's some of these that are like a lot bigger than others. Some of these are like little, I don't know, like really tiny here. So I think, a card like this too, these little types of elements in here, I think that would be fun to receive something like that these little things, kind of jeweled type of things popping out from the background. This one's like purple here, I think, unless it's kind of like more like almost like holographic, where it's like flashing a color to me. This one's like clear. There's like a lot of different versions of these glass shards on Amazon too. I don't know. You guys might know more about kind of what this type of stuff is usually used for. I don't know, Froggy. You know you know what these what people use this glass stuff for? You do all those kind of three-dimensional like model builds and all that. Is it used for that? I know it comes in like a lot of different colors. I have the silver and gold ones too. So here's the silver, and then there's two versions of gold right here. This one's called shallow gold, and this one's gold. But I was going to put some of this in like a river type of setting, where I have my little guy that's panning for gold along the river, But I was thinking about that with things like this, or in cave scenarios. I haven't done it too much, but I was going to do like a cave scenario like this, and I don't know, like have a vein of quartz or something like that. But then you glue this into the side of the like the cave walls, or I mean, you can really kind of close it off where there's like a small opening where like the sides of the cave, or it could be a mine or something like that, where there's a lot of this type of thing flashing in there. But yeah, more bling in here. Okay, let's take a look here like that. See these little things like that down there, like that. It looks kind of subtle like this, but like these little types of things like that, especially when it's like a little warm tone flashing out, against like cool tones like that. I think that's pretty fun. See that right there? How they flash like that little color when it's catching the light like that. But I don't know. Inevitably, when people get these types of cards too, these old reflection cards, they're probably going to do something like this with it. Just to look at it and to just to check out what it's doing. And so these little things like that, should stand out. All right, but anyways, I mean, this is like missing, little kind of like focal point, like I was saying. And I'll probably do something in here, like a figure. I keep using that little figure that's kind of like, these little, whatever, beginning of the 1900s, 1850s, I think, to 1920s or something like that. There was that group called the Pictorialists, and, doing things in photography. And having these little figures in these romanticized kind of figures in landscapes. I keep using those figures, but this would be like a perfect opportunity to put one of those in there. I mean, put an animal too. I saw this as being kind of like a little otherworldly type of thing, though, scenario. I didn't want to put the like those little Martians in here. I thought that would be a little bit. It'd be fun, but I don't know. I don't want to do that. Now we could do other things in here too. Like if I wanted to add in like some other like pigment, white pigment, atmospherics into it, we can do something like that. But I didn't really want to do that with all these colors in here. If I was to do that, though, I would add in like a white moon in here or something of that sort. Okay, and we can kind of further expand the value range of the piece. But again, I was thinking, it looks pretty decent, without any of that in there, just with all those colors of the those backgrounds that Deanna used. So I think I just leave it as is, and I'll just kind of figure out like a little focal point or something like that later on with this. But I wanted to see this in this scenario right here, and just to see if it was a way that I'd want to use, this piece of hers. Yeah. Let's see here. Bonnie has new kittens. They have climbing gears. Discovered they have climbing gears. Are they climbing the curtains? Just shy of 1,000 square feet. That's a big, huge craft. Sheila, did you post that craft room up on Facebook? That sounds familiar. 1,000 square feet, and I still can't get it organized. Maybe that's because you have so much room in there, Unless you have like so much stuff too, it's like really filling it up. Sometimes if we have like a lot of space, you just don't have to have it as organized as like a much smaller space where it's like you got to really maximize you know, the lack of space almost sometimes. For me, what happens is, I tend to get a lot more organized when all the stuff starts encroaching, and then it's like I can't move or something like that. Like even on my desk, when I start not being able to find something, it's like, okay, I can't stand this anymore. I'm getting organized. And that was like with the papers that I was organizing. I couldn't find, or it took me a while to kind of go and find my papers every time. It's like, okay, you know, I can't stand this anymore. So it's like I got those papers organized and kind of one thing leads to another. But then it gets unorganized and I kind of just let it go kind of like nuts until, again, it starts encroaching on either my space or the ability to find things. So, and that's when I kind of get around to it. I'm sure I had branches. Yeah, I think you had branches coming out of your. You did a bunch of cave pieces, right, Linda? I seem to recall some roots coming down like that, like hanging down in there. That's really cool to do. Oh, the ledge with brush. That's right, Candy. Right. That's a really good idea. Yeah, I should have. Yeah, I'll do that on another piece. I haven't done too many. I don't remember using one of Deanna's pre-printed papers in a cave scenario. I might have before, but I just don't remember it. But having this kind of these test pieces like this on these larger pieces of paper, kind of fun. See, here's another one like this. But she has these like beams coming in here. That would be pretty cool. That'd be pretty interesting if you have some of this like this. One of the things I thought about doing somehow was I don't remember doing this. I maybe I've done it, but sometimes those beams look kind of weird when they're reflected in here. But if we can do something where it's like coming out in here, like across some area in here, like maybe we have some rocks in here. Maybe this is the way to do it, where you have something in here stamped on here, and then you have these crepuscular rays coming in here like light beams, but we don't bring the light beam into the surface of this. But then you put like white pigment ink on the rocks where, like, if this something was right here, and the light beam was coming right in here, and goes a little bit over here, but then you have light on these rocks, kind of following the path of where that beam would go, illuminating these things down here, and you just use a little bit of pigment ink or acrylic paint pen on those. I think that would be pretty interesting. Maybe that's the solution, because I was wondering, how do we bring in like a beam like it's coming in here, because I don't want to put a beam like on the surface of the water. That would look weird. It would look like a beam's going like this and then like that. It would break it up. And like I said, I was going to put a little bit of that white pigment ink on these rocks, and then stamp out the rock, and then you kind of wipe off the pigment ink, so these rocks are a little bit more illuminated. But I don't know, maybe I'll have to try that on this one. Maybe I'll have like a finishing touch type of video or whatever where we experiment with that in here. But let's see. If you have pets, be careful. It can cut their eyes. Oh, that's Sheila. Are you talking about these glass shard type of things right here? Or was something else mentioned? That's interesting there. Seal up the glass shards if you have pets. Why all the raves about that glue? What glue is that? Is that the one? Was there another glue comment? Or is that my glue? This is the glue that I was told to buy. By everything. Okay, wait. Okay, for coal or ore loads. Oh, that's interesting. Oh, you moved your sister in here with us, so we have a lot. That's a lot of crafting supplies in that 1,000 square foot space. Things in a safe spot. Gone for a long time. Model railroad is 1,200 square feet. Well, with that, I forgot what you called it. That big, huge project that you were working on. That was like a major kind of structure in there. So, yeah, I guess that doesn't surprise me. But whew, 1,200 square feet. That's big. It's like that. There's this model railroad museum at Balboa Park that we used to go and walk through. Now that one's really huge, but they have these smaller sets, smaller in relation to that gigantic room over there. But yeah, that's significant. 1,200. Wow, that's a lot of space to fill in. That's for sure. Puppy proofing our house. Okay, we bring home a puppy in August. You guys got a lot of animals there, Froggy Fresh. Must be a lot of fun in there. Eagles in that sky. Yeah, it could be eagles in there, huh? Maybe I would use the real tiny ones, huh? Candy. Yeah, that'd be a great idea. I'd use the really tiny ones. I think that are in the nature set with the sky imagery. I think I wouldn't mind putting that one of those little figures, like I said here, or something like that. And I might want to add in one or two things like around on the perimeter. I'm not sure. Like if you notice, I didn't do any of the acrylic paint pen stuff on here either. Is it because I don't know? There's such like subtle tones and everything like that in there. Um, I don't know. It might be good to do that to make it a little bit more shimmery to match kind of the sparkle of the glass in there too. But I don't know. I want to think about that one a little bit because I even liked the look of all this, even without any of that shading. I like the shading more, because it tends to close in the perimeter a little bit more. But even without it, I thought it looked really good on this type of background paper. So I don't know. Learning how to use a lot of these things like that, and I wasn't quite sure what the imagery stamped over this, how it would look. But the imagery, it seemed to integrate all those different colors in there just fine. And she doesn't have anything on here that's like super high contrast, from one color to the next. So I think that really helped out in just being able to stamp right over it because it didn't look like, oh, here's that sky, continuation of like this area right here, right through the rocks. It wasn't obvious like that, just with stamping in there. And then, of course, if you tone it in, you can't see all that stuff in here. Like even this line in here continued down this way, I think. But it was pretty much just right absorbed right with the imagery in there. So, yeah. So anyways, fun stuff. Let's see. A moon. It needs a moon. A moon would be good too. Like I said, if I did that moon, it would be in white. Oh. So this is kind of like my little test piece for this, like these backgrounds like this. If anyone knows what, or has an idea of what, we'll ask Deanna about this and how she created, unless it's like a little secret. But yeah, not this moon right here, but I would do it like another moon. But this is the glow in the dark vinyl or something like that. Oh, look at this right here. If I had kind of like a moon rising on a cave thing like that, it would show up right down there in that reflection area. When you put stuff up really high on a reflection card, it doesn't really show in the base, but so if you want something to stand out, you throw it kind of low in there like that. I don't know. I mean, not necessarily this one, but I think I don't know, some kind of cave thing, moonrise in the cave or something like that, with a little glow in the dark piece of vinyl. This bigger one would be kind of interesting like this in a cave. I might have to tone this out though. See, because this one shows right through this rock right here. So you'd have to throw it like, I don't know, this one would be like a little, or I just like throw it right in there behind the imagery like that. The easy way to do this, if you guys haven't seen before, like on a rock like this, if this moon is rising like from behind that rock, all you do is just stamp this out and put a slice into that rock with an X-Acto blade, and then you just have this and just tuck it in there like that, and then just adhere it to the piece like that. And that would be an easy way to do it, to get this into that scenario like that. But yeah, moonrise in the reflected cave waters. I think that'd be pretty fun. We'll have to try something like that. But I really like these colors here. Thanks to Deanna for sending these to me to play around with. Now I have this one other piece like this. Maybe this one will be even cooler. See, here's the thing. On this, something like this, I really love these streaky things like this. So it's like, if I use... Oh, that would be interesting too. It's almost like a Aurora Borealis type of thing. Look at that. Lighting coming up like that. And then it's down here like this. I mean, you don't have to do it like a cave, but like if something like this, you can put like a couple little islands at the end, like right in here. And it looks like you're looking out at, I don't know, some sort of like really still water, body of water. To me, it looks more like, not so much the ocean, but like this, down in Southern California, it looks like the Salton Sea or something like that. But that'd be pretty interesting like that, having these beams like that reflecting down here like that. Or you can throw it in a cave. All right, so all kinds of different possibilities here. But pretty cool backgrounds like this. If you guys have some of those oxides or something like that, I've seen like that done before, or watercolors or something like that. Do those kind of amorphic backgrounds. I don't know if they are oxides. I don't know if they were oxides. I don't know if like Deanna would have splashed some water down here to get those little kind of, little splashy resist types of things where it's like little bleached little things like that in there. So could be just like watercolors or something like that, or ink washes. I don't know. But doing something like these backgrounds right here, you can probably like do a bunch of them in like mass production, and this would be pretty fun to use. Or just do a few of them, just print them out on your inkjet printers, which I think she did on this with matte papers, and then be able to use them. So I'm gonna try to. I've been talking to Deanna, about producing some of the ones, like the ones that she sent to me, like that are large like that. I think those were the ones that they didn't accept for her papers. But I said, well, maybe the ones that they don't take, for your papers, maybe you can, just kind of produce them yourself or something like that. So, I don't know. Like these fun little things like this. That's really cool too, huh? Anyway, You can mention that to Deanna if you guys like some of these other types of papers, and you'd be curious about her interested in using some of them. Maybe we can get her to just print some out or something like that, and put them in a little pack or something like that for whatever she'd want for them. Yeah. All right. Have a great rest of evening and dinner, Sheila. Used with anything? Yeah. I've been beginning to think that over the last few years, Cynthia. It's like, the wood grain papers, just all these other types of papers, the metallics, the reflectives. My gosh, I wasn't, thinking about those types of things years ago. Glitter, holographic, papers, things like that. I think the scenes look, pretty cool on them. They just give them a different type of look. So, I don't know, like super flashy types of things. I don't know. I wasn't thinking about that like at all at throughout most of the years, but I don't know. I love the looks of all that type of thing, so you know, never would have thought, nature on a, whatever disco ball would look cool, but anyway. Hello, Tracy. All right, have a great rest of evening, everyone. Thanks for checking it out. One more look at those little jewelly types of things down here. A little bit of extra little flash in this lower section here for extra dimension. Yeah. Fun stuff. As always, one of those little things, little test things or whatever, whether a scene's kind of successful or not is, would you want to kind of be there? And I think it would be fun to be at this location at this particular moment in time. All right. Good night, everyone. Hey, hello, Hodgkins. Good night.